Alright, so this is my review of Man on the Moon, starring Jim Carrey as Andy Kaufman. First thing I want to say is this was a great choice. I love this movie. I've actually seen it a few times before. And I made sure to rewatch it so that it was sort of fresh in my mind. Before I forget, I want to mention, if you liked this movie, you really should check out a documentary called I'm From Hollywood. I sometimes call it Man on the Moon because these two movies are so interchangeable. But it's called I'm From Hollywood. It focuses just on Andy's time in professional wrestling, and a lot of the lines that are put in Andy's mouth in Man on the Moon are taken from real life situations that are filmed in this documentary, that he says them in one context and then they're sort of used in a similar context in this movie, which is why I think this movie's so great. Yeah, so if you've seen it, it's sort of like a behind the scenes footage of Man on the Moon, even though it was filmed in the 80s. And it also has a lot of celebrities like Robin Williams discussing what it was like to see it, and you know what people in Hollywood were thinking of Andy Kaufman at the time, and that he was a little bit crazy. And similarly, a lot of the people in Andy Kaufman's real life were cast in this movie, which I think is awesome. And on that topic, I can't do this review without mentioning this book here. This is the Jerry King Lawler's biography. In that biography, he talks about filming this movie and what it was like, you know, to know Andy Kaufman and how it compared. He said that they didn't really get it right. He was a quirky guy, but not a weirdo, as he's portrayed in this movie, which is fine. You can still enjoy the movie even if it isn't 100% accurate. He also talks in the book a lot about what it was like to work with Jim Carrey, who sort of got a little bit weird in this movie. I mean, really weird. He kind of became obsessed with not just being in character as Andy Kaufman, but he took it too far and was obsessed with being Andy Kaufman. So much so that he would act like he hated Jerry Lawler, and Jerry Lawler had never met this guy. And on set, Jerry Lawler would be minding his own business, and someone would run up behind him and push him. And when Jerry Lawler would turn around, he'd just see Jim Carrey run away giggling like a little kid. Jim Carrey started putting mean-spirited signs on his back. At one point, he actually goes up to the director and he says, I don't know if this guy has ever read the script because Andy and I are friends, and calling him a Hulk Hogan wannabe at one point. They got to the scene where they needed to do the pile drive. He sent a message to Jerry Lawler that said, you know, when the pile driver scene happens, don't stop and get the stunt man. Jim Carrey wants to take the pile driver himself. And Jerry Lawler, knowing how obsessed Jim Carrey was with being Andy Kaufman, he knew that if he did it, Jim Carrey would act like he had a broken neck, and there was a good chance that he'd get sued. They got into an actual physical fight as a reaction. Jim Carrey spit in his face, and Jerry Lawler put him in a headlock, and his bodyguard, Jim Carrey's bodyguard, had to break it up. On the other side of it, Jerry Lawler discusses what it was like to work with Andy Kaufman, and he says that Andy Kaufman was the most humble guy in the world, that he came up to them, he called them and said, I want to work for your local small-time wrestling promotion. And you can just imagine if, you know, your local TV station that had wrestling on it has this huge national star, Andy Kaufman, come on. Of course, you'd leap at the opportunity to do it. And in the book, in Jerry Lawler's book, he mentions that he didn't know what to pay this guy, so he gave them, you know, a pretty big check, which Andy seemed embarrassed to take. And after Andy Kaufman died, they cleared out all of his stuff, and they found a drawer with all of his checks from his time wrestling, and not a single one of them was cashed. He just did it to entertain himself. He just loved being in front of people and entertaining them. I really think this is a great movie. It's a very sad movie because, you know, Andy may have done some mean things by tricking people, but he didn't do it in a mean-spirited way. He just wanted to entertain them. He wanted them to have real reactions. And, you know, he spent his life tricking people, and when he got really sick, nobody believed him, which is the saddest part of this movie. I mean, obviously the saddest part is that he died, but, you know, having to go through telling your family that you have cancer and they don't even believe you, that's horrible. And, you know, he didn't deserve that, even if he may have had it coming, which sounds like I'm contradicting myself. But also, this movie, it's sort of a bit of a retelling of The Boy Who Cried Wolf. I think it was a great movie, though. I would recommend anyone check it out. And like I said, go check out I'm From Hollywood if you haven't seen it. If you like my review, please hit like, and please subscribe to my channel for more content. And thanks.